Healthcare Exposed with S.R. Ridley, a nurse you can trust.
Welcome back to Truth Hour, Healthcare Exposed. I am S.R. Ridley, a nurse you can trust. And for those who are returning, thank you so much. We appreciate you. And for those who are tuning in for the first time, you chose an excellent episode to choose. What I need you to do is to go back and watch from episode 1 to now, because this is a continuum. These are not stories that you're supposed to forget. These are stories that are supposed to build upon one another so that you stay safe in today's emergency room. Now, today you will leave here knowing that when you receive a blood product, I'm going to give you 3 things that you need to check to make sure you get the right blood. You know, I always begin with a true story. True story. A woman comes into an emergency room. She receives the wrong blood and she dies the next day in the ICU when this should never happen. So what happened? First, we talked about Vanderbilt with the young lady who gave the wrong medication and the 25-year-old died. Now we're speaking of another big name hospital, BAYLOR, person who entered the emergency room and received the wrong blood and died. My question to you is, how many have to die before you and I join forces together to ensure your safety and the safety of your loved ones? People shouldn't be dying from these errors. And once again, the error was found on a routine Medicare, Medicaid state evaluation. The same way with Vanderbilt. These big name hospitals, people are dying. Now, I'm not just saying people are dying at Vanderbilt, people are dying at Baylor. That's not what I'm saying. People are dying all over. You just don't know. When these stories make the news, it's an issue, a true issue. And usually, I'm not saying this is what happened, but usually it's because it was swept under the rug. But when I'm trying to get you to click that button, share, like, and subscribe and comment, because this is your life. So my question again is, how many have to die before your children, your daughter, your son, your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, you, someone that you care, how many have to die before we pay attention and do something about this? I promise you, without your health, you have nothing. You can't put makeup on. Well, you can't put makeup on a dead patient, but who wants to? You need your health to be able to wear the fancy shoes, to be able to look good in the outfits, to be able to just appreciate life to its fullest. Now, we're going to talk about this true story. So this young lady enters an emergency room, receives the wrong type of blood. She was supposed to receive A positive and she got B positive, or vice versa. Either way, she got the wrong blood. How does this happen? There are so many checks and balances that go into giving blood, because even before I became a nurse 21 years ago, there were people getting the wrong blood and they were dying. So hospital put in all these fail safes. You want to know? I'm working at a big name hospital. True story, true story. I'm telling you, true story. And a rich hospital, both of them. So historically, when you give blood, there are 2 nurses at the bedside and they check. They check the blood type. They check the armband of the patient to make sure they have the right patient. They check the birth date, the medical record, and then there's something called a FIN number. And a FIN number is a unique identification number that changes every time you come in, because it's equivalent to your emergency room visit or your hospital visit. 2 nurses. I'm working at this rich hospital. I'm telling you the truth. They said, oh no, S.R. Ridley, we don't do the 2 nurse check anymore. No, what we do is you check it with a computer. Really? You check to see if the patient is getting the right blood with a computer? Are you serious? Now, once again, the safety in your life is relegated to a computer. I told the young nurse in the ER, I said, No, I don't do that. Sorry, honey. I'm an old nurse, and as an old nurse, I've seen lots of errors occur with blood transfusions. So I'm going to do it the old way, the way that has worked for decades. So I need a nurse to come at the bedside to make sure we are giving the right blood to the right patient through the right route, through the right IV. All these steps are essential in order for you to receive a blood transfusion. And these stories, when I'm talking to you about these stories, they really do upset me, because you shouldn't die from getting a medication error from a little bottle to a big bottle, from a sedative to a paralytic. You shouldn't come into a hospital and die because you get the wrong blood. So what happened to this lady that's finished the dissection? This lady went to the ICU and she had a brain hemorrhage. So what is a brain hemorrhage? Her brain bled. She bled to death in her brain and she died in less than 24 hours. Now remember, I told you that when you enter a hospital and you die within 24 hours, you have to be an ME case, medical examiner. You have to. So why wasn't her death reported, or was it reported? And why was it found, picked up on another routine investigation? So when I was reading the article, BAYLOR said that her death was due to bedside patient care error, patient care delivery error, i.e., what does that equate to? Incompetent, inexperienced, academically and clinically malnourished nurses. That's what that equates to. No one wants to say the real problem. The real problem is that your emergency rooms are impregnated, infiltrated, and just persecuted with brand new nurses who are not properly academically or clinically trained to be able to be there. Remember, I told you I love new nurses, just not in the emergency room. A new nurse asked me, she said, well, she actually told me. She said, well, after I get a year experience in the ER, then I'm going to go to the floor so I can learn how to take care of a patient. I'm going to say this again, rewind. A new nurse said to me, I'm going to start in the emergency room, and after 1 year, I'm going to go upstairs to an ICU, to a step-down unit, which is a unit where the patients are in between a regular unit and the ICU. And she said, I'm going to learn how to care for a patient. Doesn't that seem like she's going backwards? Shouldn't you learn how to take care of a patient first before you come to the emergency room? But her mere statement tells you that she does not believe that she's going to go into an emergency room and be able to properly and adequately care for you, your mother, your father, your daughter, your son, your family member adequately, because he or she knows that they are clinically and academically malnourished. So my question to you is, when does your life matter? I understand that we want to have a fun life, we want to have a great life, but when does your life matter? Without the tools to stay healthy, does a great nation make healthy people? Or do healthy people make a great nation? Without your health, what do you have? I am inundated with nurses from all over sending me stories, real stories about what's going on in their hospital. We are going to talk about the new nurse who pumped milk into a patient's heart and killed the patient. And until this day, the family doesn't even know. These errors are unheard of. So why do you need experienced nurses in the emergency room? Why? I keep saying this. You see, hospitals come out with policies. And I did a poll of 175 nurses at this rich hospital and throughout the United States. And I asked 170 baccalaureate nurses with their BSN, Does hospital policy determine your nursing license, your scope of practice, or does the Nurse Practice Act of the state? 174 said hospital policy determines their scope of practice. A policy is this. An act is the law. So I asked them, second question, who can take your nursing license? They all said 175. They all said the state, the Nurse Practice Act, the state, the Board of Nursing can take your nursing license. I said, well, who gives you your nursing license? Oh, the Board of Nursing gives us a nursing license. So if the Board of Nursing gives you your nursing license and the Board of Nursing can take your nursing license, then why would you think hospital policy is more important than the law? So I also asked them, I said, if the hospital asked you to do something that the state Nurse Practice Act from the Board of Nursing told you not to do, would you do it? 174, I am telling you the truth, 174 said that they would do what the hospital said, even if it went against their scope of practice from the Nurse Practice Act, the Board of Nursing. I said, wait, you would ignore your scope of practice and do what your scope of practice forbids you to do, and you would do what a hospital tells you to do? 174 said yes. Really? I said to them, well, what's going to happen to your license? Oh, the hospital will back me up. Did the hospital back Vanderbilt up? Did that happen to that young lady? Because she's about to go to jail, do 5 to 8 for murder. Is the hospital backing up this particular incident where this lady entered an emergency room, received the wrong blood, and her brain bled to death? A message to the new graduate nurses. The definition of a policy is this. The definition of an act is this. It is the Nurse Practice Act that guides your scope of practice. Policy never trumps the Nurse Practice Act. You always follow the Nurse Practice Act, because at the end of the day, when you practice medicine beyond the scope of your practice, you will pay dearly. Remember, you can always work at a different hospital, but you can only get one nursing license. Remember this. S.R. Ridley, a nurse you can trust. Be there every Wednesday as we discover, discuss, and dissect healthcare today, because your life matters. These 2 items are a must-have for you to live your best life. Why should you enter today's emergency rooms and be afflicted with the incompetency of the workers there? They're supposed to be professionals. They took an oath. They took an oath to protect you. They took an oath to value a life, and they don't. They value the almighty dollar. From the show me the model charge nurse to the charge nurse who I told you about has a 1.5 year experience, and her ability to think, is just not there. But that faith-based hospital chose to put her in charge, and she can't even think. She doesn't even know when she has assumed care of a patient. And this poor patient who died from her brain bleeding to death. And this 25-year-old who died from receiving the wrong medication, the worst way ever, being locked in. He felt himself dying and felt every breath leaving his body. So last question. How many have to die before you understand and read about the things that are going to keep you safe in today's emergency room? There is no book out there like that. That's why I have nurses telling me things, because they're afraid. They're afraid to come forward because they have to work. So they want me to be their voice, to tell you the voice of reasoning, the voice of safety. And they want you, and I want you, to learn the things that you need to stay safe in today's emergency rooms. Thank you again for joining us for Truth Hour, Healthcare Exposed. I am S.R. Ridley, a nurse you can trust. See you Wednesday at 8 p.m.
Thank you, and see you next Wednesday for Truth Hour, Healthcare Exposed. And don't forget to click that button now and subscribe, comment, share, and like. And then I, S.R. Ridley, a nurse you can trust, want you to get mad and hashtag My Life Matters and let healthcare know that you are not going to take it anymore. Because in healthcare, all lives matter. Are you safe in today's ERs? Next Wednesday.